Hello everyone, how are you doing today? I'm back with another video, and in today's video we have a special GPU here. This one is an EVGA GeForce RTX 3080 Ti, and this one is an ICX3 version. And a subscriber sent me this one to me so I can modify it or make it better so the temperature is running really high, so I can lower the temperature on this one, and what else I can do to make it a little better. And I'm going to go over the details, what are the stuff that you can do to make it lower the temperatures, and what are the modifications you can do, and what's the proper way of taking it apart, and what's the proper way of protecting the GPU and not using a nail polish or anything like that. So let's go through the tools that I'll be using. I'm going to be using an iFixit screwdriver set, as these are one of the best screwdrivers out there. These are made out of S2 class steel. We're going to be using a Phillips #1 and a Phillips 00 from this tool set. If you get the Pro set, they will include you with an opening tools and tweezers. If not, grab yourself a curved tweezers, a wooden rod, toothpick type, a spatula, a metal or plastic spatula. You need a used or new toothbrush. We are going to be using a solution for silver or copper cleaning solution. Important one, alcohol, 90%, 95% isopropylic or isopropylic alcohol. Cotton tips and normal cotton tips to protect the capacitors around the GPU, because we are going to be applying liquid metal. We're going to be using a solder mask curing ink, and it comes with a UV light with a little brush to apply it. Always use a workshop towel. Do not use any microfiber towels or anything like that, because once you put alcohol on this one and you try to clean the capacitors, this will rip and the capacitors will stay the way they are. They will not get damaged. But if you use microcloth, you can rip those capacitors or damage the component. Always use workshop towel. And I have thermal pads, 3 millimeters, and one the 2 millimeters, and one of them is 1 millimeter thermal pads. Obviously, you will need your liquid metal paste, I guess. And little tiny pliers, little pointy pliers is good to have around. I'll show you why. With all this on hand, we're going to get it started. I have actually a copper shim here. It's really super flat. And I have 3 nuts here, 4 nuts. To either I'm going to make a riser to pull the GPU towards the heatsink towards the GPU, or if the copper plate is not flat, I'm going to be using a copper shim. So we're going to get to see which one we're going to be using at the end, and I'll explain everything. All right, to get this connected and remove the whole thing apart, it's really easy. It's not too hard. First thing first, Phillips #1, I believe. #1, yes. We're going to remove the X clamp, the bracket that holds the heatsink to the GPU. So go ahead and remove it, always in an X pattern, so do not go round around. You put it in X pattern and remove it in X pattern. Once you remove, grab it, and remember, this one only goes this way, so if you try to put it the other way around, it will not go. It has a little, it's not a square shape. All right, now we're going to start removing. There's a screw right under this label. You're going to puncture through and remove the screw right there. All the screws are the same size and height, so don't worry about mismatching them. So go all around and remove them. And the screws at the back here, and 2 on this side and 1 here, they have a little bolt on them on the other side, so it might fall off. Just don't lose it. So I remove all the screws on this side, and I'm going to put my finger underneath so I can grab this tiny bolt and put it in one place. And again, put your finger underneath so you can catch that thing, or it just might fall off. And to remove this one, keep it in this position so it falls down this way. So it doesn't let's see where there it go. It's right there. Now that we remove the back shield plating, at the end we're gonna modify this one. We're gonna put thermal pads in here to use this metal sheet because it has a lot of risers in here, so it doesn't touch the board, or if it did, it will shorten the whole thing. So that's why they have the riser. But we're gonna take advantage of this one by placing thermal pads in here to use it as a heatsink for VRAMs. I have made a before and after video on this one on the same fan curve, same room temperature, and you guys can see the difference at the end. I always like to leaving the RGB lights off because the client doesn't want it. So it's really good to keep it off because that's extra voltage that you're trying to pull. It's like a 5 volt at least or 12 volt LED that you're pulling from the board. So I leave all the LEDs off. If you want a performance or you just want to have a club right there. Now, you do not need to remove the front plate. If you want to remove it, there are 3 screws in here. Let me see if it's going to focus or not. Right there. There are 3 screws, so you can remove this one and remove front shield, but there's no need to remove that. Leave it right there. I don't know why people keep removing those. All right. Next, pretty much we are going to detach the board from the heatsink. So don't yank it from this side to pulling it up, otherwise you're going to bend the board. Always try to do even job. So I'm holding it, putting my finger right in on the heatsink and here too. So evenly I'm going to push it back, holding with these 2 fingers so I don't let it go the whole thing. So little force right there, and it's too much, so I'm pushing a little more there. And then I'm going to switch to the back side. Same thing on the back end. Do have pressure points on few places. See, it's getting detached. I'm going gently. I'm not forcing excessive. Be very gentle. And there we go. The thermal pads are getting, so what I'm gonna use this toothpick to make sure the thermal pads are not getting pulled. Once I'm in this position, now I can go ahead and remove the, what do you call, the connectors for the fan. So lift up the lock and pull it back. Lift up the lock and pull it back. Right there. And there's one back LED light right here. But this one, we can get to it at the end. So I'm gonna keep detaching. And there we go. There we have it. So we're gonna put it in this position, just like a book pamphlet. Open it to this side. This is the way that you're supposed to open it, and this is the same way that you close it down. Now we can go ahead and disconnect the cable right in here. Just pinch it and pull it. And there we have it. So there's a thermal putty on the coils right in here. There's a thermal putty all over in here, which is right in here. We're gonna pull them back together and we're gonna put them right on top again. But there are lots of it just squished to the side, so we're gonna bend it over so it can get squeezed again back on top. And we're gonna collect all the thermal putties and we're gonna put them right in the middle. So once you close it, it just squeezes all over the place. Now this is very important if you want to do a repaste liquid metal. And we can remove this thermal pad in here, and I'm gonna measure the thickness of this one. These ones are 2 millimeters thermal pads, I believe. Yes, they are 2 millimeters. Let me measure it. Yeah, they are 2 millimeters thermal pad. The thermal pads in here, these are really good quality thermal pads. I recommend them to keep them. Do not replace them. Just put them backward the same way. Just put them right in there. I'll keep these thermal pads. They're really good thermal pads. But if you want to, you can change them to an extreme thermal pads. But I really like the ones that are in here. But let me see what I can do. Maybe I'll change them as we progress. Now, this is very important right here. Now, the GPU die is already being marked right over here. So I know the GPU goes from here to here. This is the place for the GPU. So before we do anything, I'm just gonna make a tiny dent, a little bit more this way, about 1 millimeters this side right there, another dent right in here. So pretty much I'm saying from this point to this point, I'm not marking the dent right where the GPU is gonna be. I'm just measuring 1 millimeter extra outward. So because once we clean up this one in here, we're not gonna know, so we don't have to measure where the die is gonna be when we are painting the liquid metal. All right, once we clean, and now we're gonna remove the thermal paste in here. So gently first remove the excess. Right there. You can use a plastic pick if you want to remove the excess in here. You're gonna apply alcohol on the workshop towel. Place enough of it, not too much that it starts dripping. And you're gonna switch back to a clean side. And you're gonna keep doing it. Now we see the marking, one right there, there, and there. Before we continue, we're gonna remove all these thermal putties right here. A place to put them in a clean place. You don't need to clean the place for the thermal putties. You just wanna collect them and put them on the right place in the middle. All right, now that this one is ready, we're gonna work on this one still. So let's bring the GPU and clean up the GPU. So here we have the GPU. To clean up the GPU, first we're gonna remove the excess of the thermal paste around it. All right. Now what we're gonna do, we're gonna start cleaning it with a workshop towel. Put enough alcohol on the tip. And gently start rubbing it on. You don't need to press hard or anything, just gently. You see how the workshop towel starts like peeling off this and that. So this is good because it's not damaging the shape or the components around it. Now that we clean up the die, we're gonna work around the die. So with a toothpick, start first remove the big chunks of the thermal paste in here. Gently, I'm not pressing too hard or anything like that. I'm just letting the toothpick its own weight to do the job. Now I'm just gonna flip it over so it can drop the. You can go ahead and pick up the chunks of the thermal paste in here. Again, use a towel to Clean up nicely over the capacitors. Now what I do in here, I'll grab a toothbrush and I'm gonna soak it in an alcohol. And I'm gonna just rub it right in there. And I'm just gonna clean between the capacitors nicely. All right, now that we clean up as much as we could in here, as you can see, it's pretty clean. There's a little bit of tiny between the capacitor, but that's not important. Now we have the PCB cleaned around it. We're gonna grab our ink for curing ink for the PCB. And we are gonna paint around the capacitors right there. So grab a little bit of paint. Make sure you do not go over the die at all. Just go on the capacitors. You want to do 2 passes probably. I'm gonna do 2 passes on this one, and we're gonna leave it for curing for under the UV light for at least like 20 minutes. And I'm gonna do 2 passes, and I'll be back right after this. Okay, we're gonna cure this one for at least 20 minutes, and I'll be back right after this. So what I did right now here, you guys can see, I covered the capacitors on the couple of coatings right there. So this coating is a high temperature, it can go up to 220 degrees without degrading or cracking. Comparing to a nail polish that I see a few other people doing, the nail polish doesn't resist that much heat and it can crack and it can shorten, the liquid metal can get between the cracks and damage the capacitor. Regarding the thermal putty, I just put a thermal putty right on top, stick it like a tiny balls, and as soon as I put the heatsink back on, it's gonna squeeze and we're gonna have an evenly placed thermal putty right on top. Regarding the thermal pads, we did a few tests based on this one. These are really good thermal pads still, but this one is still brand new thermal pad, and they are the same as good as this one right here. But if you want to replace yours, depending on when you're watching this video, you simply can grab your thermal pad. These are 2.2 millimeter thermal pads. Cut them to the shape with the scissors and just place them right on top. But for this video, it's not necessary because this is brand new. I'll probably change the thermal pads next year or so, but I'm still gonna test it with the liquid metal and the VRAMs, everything, and we're gonna test it out. Now, the trick on applying the liquid metal in here, how we're gonna get that extra pressure coming from here to the GPU, because we know that the best transfer rate of the cold or heat is the pressure between 2 compounds. In this case, the crystal and the copper. Now, we need to get the surface of the copper cleaned really nicely. So what we're going to do, we're going to grab a copper solutioning or silver solution cleaner. And we're going to dab it right through the cleaning solution and look at the cleaning right there. That's how we expose the true copper right away. If you let it there sit for a little longer, it's going to oxidize again and it's going to create a coating. So we're gonna clean that little bit inside here. We can clean their VRAM chip so you get a better contact in there. So clean it up nicely. Remove that extra coating that they have in there. So you get that You see that how much dirt is in there? So you want to clean up all those where the VRAMs are going to be touching. Or you can take your time, clean the whole thing, doesn't matter. Just no point cleaning everything when you just need a little portion. Alright. Now that we clean it, you can do a second pass if you wish. Now we're going to close this one up. And we're going to apply the liquid metal on this one. We're going to put this one to one side. Bring this one up. To apply the liquid metal on this one, you need the liquid metal, and we already marked the 4 points. We're going to be right inside in here. So we're going to put one tiny drop in the middle. I'm just going to try not to push too much. Okay, that's a little bit too much. But I'm going to let it suck back there. There we go. And we're going to apply on the other side too in a second. So we're going to grab the Q-tips. And we're just going to work it right on top of this copper. You want to make sure we cover the whole soup area between the markings. Just dapping it in there. Make sure every bit of this place has a liquid metal. Alright, now that we dapped in there, look, that's how much you want. You don't want too much. As long as it's not dripping and it's really little. Now we're gonna work on the board. Same thing that we did in here. You want a tiny drop right in the middle. One really small drop. And you want to work yourself right through there. It's much easier on the crystal die than the copper. There, I'm just gonna add one tiny bit. You don't want to exaggerate or anything like that. Just, I'm gonna leave a little bit of mostly in the middle, so it can just spread around on the GPU. Alright, once we have that one in there ready to go, now all we need to do is to bring it over. I'm not gonna connect the backlight. If you don't want to connect the backlight, you have to bring it in this position and put this one in and bring it over. But I'm gonna start doing it from this side up. So I'm gonna rotate for the camera so you guys can see. I'm gonna bring it like this. I'm gonna connect the cables in here first. Starting from the black cable right here. Right there. And the gray one. And the blue one. Alright, once we have those one in there, now I'm actually gonna sit down the fan and I'm gonna bring over this one up. Make sure the pads are sticking. And I'm gonna align, make sure the screw holes, everything is aligned right there. and bring it down. Once it's aligned, just hold it in there for a second. I like to keep this LED lights disconnected, so I'm gonna, if you want yours to be having LED RGB connected together, so we're gonna keep it in there. Now we're gonna grab the X clamp, we're gonna put it on top. But before we put the X clamp, I'm gonna actually put the washers right in there underneath, so because I want them to have a little more pull towards them. So I'm gonna put this another washer you can put, or this tiny bolt. So this way it's gonna have a little more force pulling toward the GPU, and that's gonna give you way better result. Just gonna do a little bit until it holds. Gonna do this other side, the cross. All right, I just put a little bit in there, so I want to make sure how much I want to squeeze. So I want to twist it a little enough, so I see that pull right there. So you can see on the riser height has to be the same. So you don't want to overdo. And that way the VRAMs, all the thermal paste, everything gets squeezed nicely. So you want to flip here, and you want to make sure the risers under here, they are the same height. There we go. Now we have that extra pressure right there between two of them. I'm not exaggerating. So it's pulling the GPU toward the heatsink better. So you have a better surface contact right there. Again, remember, if you want your GPU light, you have to plug this in. But if you don't, just leave it right there. Now, the other modification that we're going to do here, we're going to using the back plate as a heat spreader. And we're gonna cut thermal pads in here, 3mm thick, and we're gonna place them right in here, here, and here. So I have two parts here. So I'm gonna put, where's my scissors? If I can find them, right here. So I'm gonna cut them in half. We wanna place them roughly right there, and we need to cut it through here. And we're gonna put this one in the center later on, maybe. And on top here, we can put this couple of them that we cut. We'll put this one in here, so we can take advantage of everything. There we go. And there's one tiny bit right over here, so we're gonna put that one in there. So I'm gonna open another one. There's a one VRAM sitting loose. I believe it's right here. Let me check. Yeah, there's a VRAM right over here. So I'm gonna cut one tiny piece. You're gonna put it right over there. Okay, if you want to go extra, you can put another strip right on the heatsink, coils right in here, power management if you want to go crazy, but it's not necessary as long as we cool down the VRAMs. And next down here would be to just grab the top sheet cover here. Make sure the screw holes match. Bring it and screw down the back plate. Again, I'm gonna do extensive testing on these ones, and I'll leave the results right at the end of the video, so you guys can look at it. So pretty much this is how it goes. The one down here goes with a bolt, so I'm gonna put the bolt right at the back with my finger, and it will go through. Put the bolt in here. And two at this side. And one more. And this last one, I'm not lefty, so I'm gonna do it this way. I'm gonna hold it with this one with the pliers, and I'm gonna go left and right from here. There we go. I haven't put one screw that I'm missing right over here. So put the last screw right there. Now, I'm gonna test it like this, and I'll post the results so you guys can see. And as you can see, the card is not bended, it's straight, and the only little tension is in the back plate. That is because pushing down on the thermal pads right there. And from down there, I can see all those capacitors, all those coils are touching with those thermal pad is already squeezed out. I don't know if you guys can see that thing. The thermal putty right there is being squeezed. So we should be fine, and I'm gonna run the test and let's see how it goes. As always, if you guys have any question or requests, feel free to leave them in a video comment. I'll try to answer them as soon as I can. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in my next video.